Cool.
We should do this clip as a BTS.
What's a BTS?
Behind the scenes.
Oh.
Hi!
Hey guys!
We're back.
How's it going?
This wasn't planned, by the way, this whole tracksuit thing.
I know.
I don't know how we wear the same thing.
We're in zen with each other.
We are.
Cool.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our podcast. This is episode 2 today.
So yeah, we're going to be continuing talking about what they don't tell you about motherhood.
Yeah, exactly. First part is going to be about anxiety. Did you have anxiety?
No.
Do you have anxiety through any of your motherhood experience?
So I don't, but I don't know if that's like another way of people, like you were saying earlier about how people deal with anxiety. I don't know what falls under the umbrella, but I don't have outwardly...
That's stress though. Anxiety is part of stress,
I think
isn't
all
it?
mums get stressed though, but I don't think that all stress relates to anxiety.
I feel like there's different levels of stress. So like there's everyday stress that people get, and then there's stress that actually affects your like mental health. So like for example with me, I get anxiety. I can get anxiety attacks. I can get like heart palpitations. I can get my body can go like really shaky, and I can feel on edge, like I'm drunk.
That's what I mean. So I think anxiety is like maybe more of a physical response to stress, but I don't know if that's right. And I don't get that. I don't get that. I can get very stressed where, do you know what, though? No, my heart rate can go up. Like if I'm stressed during motherhood, I can feel like my heart rate going up, but I don't know if that's anxiety. Like
I think like as well, there's so many things that anxiety can cover, so many things, but like for me, for example, when I was pregnant, I was always worried there was something wrong with the baby.
Yeah.
Like I went into the hospital so many times to get him checked because I thought he wasn't moving properly.
Yeah.
And that's why I ended up being induced, because in my head I was like, this is reduced movements. To this day, I don't know if it actually was reduced movements or I was just being overly anxious. But anyway, better to be safe than sorry. But like things like that is like it's just a constant for me. Like when he was born, I would like freak out about everything. Like he breathes weird.
Yeah, but okay, do you know what? You hear this a lot, and that's what I'm trying to say. So I think that I didn't really get that.
Oh really?
Like the worries, the only time I remember worrying was like the first day when I put her in her cot and like kept checking she's breathing, but that just passed after a few days. But I know a lot of my friends will like feel like that for a long time.
I still do it. He's 8 months.
Yeah.
I still check if he's breathing.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think I don't know. It's just not something.
You're so lucky, because I feel like a lot of mums definitely have that issue where there's like so many worries, especially like if it's your first child. And I think having a baby in lockdown obviously didn't help as well, because if anything did go wrong, I didn't feel safe to like go to the doctors or go to the hospital or anything like that. And that was like an additional stress, because I'm like, oh, is it worth it to go to the doctors and risk my child?
And people are already having added anxiety from COVID.
Exactly.
With that added on. Do you know what though? One thing that I probably do get a little bit anxious over regarding like being a mum is just like, okay, I don't want to become morbid, but like, you know, like when you leave this earth, making sure that they're provided for. That's like a big worry of mine, obviously, where I'm a single mum.
That freaks me out all the time.
So I was looking into life insurance, and I think that it's something that we should definitely touch on. Because it's funny, because there was a life insurance that called me the other day. I don't know how they got my details, but they basically were going through like life expectancy and just like what your child can have when you're away. And I think it's definitely something we should, like, all of us should think about.
You saying that, I actually did look at that. I looked at making a will the other day. I know it sounds crazy. I don't even have anything to leave.
It doesn't.
But like, no, I think it is important. Obviously, once you have a child, life insurance, get a will, like just sort of sort your shit out.
Actually,
like, do things that you wouldn't normally have done.
Naming a legal guardian.
Yeah.
Like that's like such a big thing, and I still haven't done it.
It's not nice to think about though, is it?
I know, but
it's not nice to think about it. If I think about like leaving my child, it freaks me out so much. I just think how.
And that's the thing.
Can't leave him.
That's why it's so important to have those things set up.
Yeah, I guess so. You're right.
Because you just, as much as we're like, oh, it's not going to happen, you just have to have it prepared. I think that's the best thing you can do. Maybe. Well, yeah.
Moving back to anxiety though, one thing I do want to say is I feel like it's not normalised enough. Like, as much as, you know, when you go to the doctors and the GP and like you talk about having a baby and the stresses of motherhood and blah blah blah, they're like, oh yeah, it's normal, don't worry if one gets anxious. Like, we don't actually go into detail of how you're actually feeling and the actual physical effects it has on your body and what it can actually do with your mind. Like,
yeah, because break it down for me, because that's what I mean, but it's not spoken about enough. Like, you're asking me, do I have it? And I'm like, I don't know. Like,
for me, well, my personal anxiety, I had anxiety before Ziggy was born anyway, and it stemmed from panic attacks. But I get like physical symptoms, so I can get panic attacks. My issue is health anxiety, so I freak out about anything health related, and I always think it's 100 times worse than what it is. So like, if I find like a spot, I'll be like, I've got cancer, which is just ridiculous. It's just a spot.
But it's a genuine worry.
I worry about if Ziggy gets bitten by gets a bite, in case he ends up with Lyme's disease or something.
Okay.
And I freak out about these things, and it really stresses me.
And what have you found? Have you reached out to find what there is to help with that, or have you not found anything to kind of cope with it?
I had counselling. Like, I was talking to somebody at some point, which helps a little bit. I think it was CBT, but it wasn't that helpful for me. I don't know, honestly, since having a baby, it's really calmed me down, just because I feel like it's distracted me so much, so I've been able to focus my attention on him. However, I do notice sometimes that I put my anxieties on him.
So you worry, so the worry goes from what's happening with you to him?
Yeah, what's happening with him. But I think, I don't know if that's my anxiety, bringing my anxiety back from before, or just because I'm a new mum and I don't really understand what's going on. So like, things I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, for example, I didn't know that babies did weird breathing, so they would stop breathing and then breathe, like periodic breathing. I didn't know about that. Yeah. So obviously, when I see that happening, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Why is he breathing?
And what physically happens to you? Like, when, let's say that there's something you're really feeling anxious about, how does it affect you day to day? Like, does it stop with you sleeping, appetite? Is it just a physical thing that's not nice? Like, how does it affect you?
It doesn't affect my sleeping. That's one godsend. It just gives me like a raised heart rate. It can make me feel a bit like lightheaded, dizzy. Yeah. Just a little bit disorientated, just not really all there. Just sort of like checked out a bit, and just give me the shakes. Honestly, there's so many things, but mainly it's my mind. My mind just starts to go crazy, and it just runs one thing after the next, and I keep thinking about things, and I'm just like, oh my god, I can't.
And have you managed to work out anything that kind of can settle you down, whether that's like sitting down, meditating, breathing, going for a run? Like, is there anything that works for you?
I've sort of just learned to understand that it's just anxiety.
And it'll pass?
And then it passes, yeah. It's so mad, because I actually used to be really chilled, and then one day I had a panic attack, and then it just opened up this whole...
But then you're almost panicking to have another panic attack, because you've experienced it now and it was so horrible, and it's like, then you kind of get on edge with it. Do you feel? Or not really?
I don't know, I feel like once you have... It's like you've opened the door to something.
That's what I mean.
And you can't close it.
Yeah.
That's the only way how I can explain it. Because before, everything was bliss. Like, I was just... Obviously, you hear about mental health issues, and you hear about anxiety and stress and depression and all of these things.
Yeah.
And I can be like, yeah, okay, cool, I get it. I did not get it. I didn't get it.
I think it's
because I've never experienced it. And now I've opened this door, and when people talk about mental health now, I'm like, it actually is a health issue. It's not just people don't think about mental health in the right way. Like, when people say mental health, they're like, oh yeah, it's in your head. It's not in your head. Like, it's actually a condition that can affect you physically.
Oh, do you know what?
It's not in your head.
Touching onto this, I've definitely had bouts of just feeling down and low energy, 100%, and like we were saying earlier, like lonely, because it's like tough for me, like definitely in the middle of the night at the beginning when she's gone to sleep, and like I'm up at 2 a.m. by myself. I definitely had bouts of that.
Why are you up at 2 a.m?
Like when she was first born and stuff, like when I would feed her in the night time, I'd just be by myself. So I definitely had bouts where I was just like, this is so crazy. But and definitely had times where I think mental health is something that when it just comes out of the blue, it's one of those things that before I felt that, like before I felt like I was feeling a little bit down and stuff, it was one of those things where I thought wouldn't really happen to me, and then it's just kind of understanding that it's something you actually can't really control. Like it's something that has to pass, you have to really deal with and take care of your mental health, because when I started to feel down, I couldn't believe I was feeling like that. I was just like, what's wrong with you, you know, and it would be getting worse. So yeah, I actually had, I think it was CBT, right? Yeah, I spoke to a counsellor for like 10 weeks. I can't lie, it kind of felt like it was just getting to the 10 weeks and it wasn't that like personal to me.
Yeah, I think it's not for everyone. It depends on like the triggers and stuff. I don't know. I don't personally find it that helpful either.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I think it's just mental health and all of that kind of stuff is an ongoing struggle. Personally, I think I will have anxiety for my whole life, and I'm just learning how to manage it rather than learning to just get over it. Like that's it now.
Yeah.
But obviously when it first happens it can be major, and I guess with something like motherhood it didn't trigger it for me, but I can imagine that it could be a massive trigger for a lot of people because it's such a big thing that's
worry. It's natural to worry, isn't it?
Yeah, so I just completely get the anxiety with motherhood. I've experienced it myself, and I just think we should talk about it more. Mum should talk about it, everyone should talk about it, because it helps to feel like you're not the only one that's feeling like that as well. And
almost, I guess, I mean, the NHS, they're stretched anyway, but like maybe something that like, rather than waiting on the mums to feel it, it's kind of spoken about way more during pregnancy, so that they can kind of see the traits of it and like know if that, I mean, like when you go to your doctor's meetings and have like a little section with your midwife about it and beforehand.
I think this is why it's so important that we do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And also you have like a community of mums around you.
Yeah.
I know we talk about it all the time, obviously, because that's what we're doing, it's Virtuous Mums, but honestly it's really coming from a place where we feel like we need it.
Yeah.
Because it's so good to have those people that you can talk to and relate to, rather than just being in your head and feeling like you're crazy in these kind of situations.
And it's so often whenever a mum in our group writes she's having an issue or worry, at least four or five, how many people will say, yeah, I'm having the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, everyone can always relate to it.
And then you're like, phew, yeah, okay, it's not just me.
Yeah, and you can almost feel like their relief, like when they're talking about it. And you're like, oh, that's fine, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's just that?
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's really, really important. And I think moving on from this, like, we were going to talk about mum shaming, weren't we?
Yes.
Because I think that has such a big part to play in anxiety as well. Do you know what I mean? Because everybody has an opinion of everything that you do as a parent, and sometimes it's just like, can you just stay the fuck out of my business?
Even with the mum shaming, like even if you're talking about that I'm having like mental health or like I'm feeling down, or it's like, oh, you alright? Like, you know, because...
Or you just disregard it. That's what I don't like, when people just sort of like brush it to the side and are just like, oh yeah.
Because you're a mum, you mean? Like almost like you should be like, oh, you're feeling tired and...
Yeah, well, like, say for example, for me personally, I can only talk for myself, I felt so exhausted. I still feel exhausted, to be honest. I'm just adapting to being exhausted. But if I was to go and say that to my mum, it would just be like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, you just literally triggered something in me. My mum is exactly... No.
It's like, that's normal.
So my mum
what's your problem? Get on with it. It's like, there's no sympathy. It's just like, yeah, get on with it. Like,
that's what I say to my mum every time. So my mum had 7
like...
kids, and because I only have 1, every single time, no matter what I say, I might say, Mum, I fed her, she'll be like, I did it 7 times. That's her answer every time, and I'm like...
off, to be honest.
Okay. what does that have to do with the fact that I'm exhausted right now? Yeah, they definitely do that. The elders love to do that. They love to say, well, I did it, or back in my day, or we used to do it like this. And
it's like weaning. For when I was weaning Ziggy, I was going to wait till 6 months because that's what it says, and I was like, well, I started weaning you at 3 months, and I'm like, okay, but the rules are different now. Well, it didn't do you any harm, and I'm like, well, they don't just change the rules for no reason. Like, there's a reason that
even it's smoking. You all used to smoke with us on your hips. Yeah.
Like, new research has come about, and this is what we use now, because obviously it's going to be more beneficial. So why are you telling me to do it how you do it?
Yeah, it's true, but I just don't think there's a mum out there that cannot help but do that. My fear is, are we going to become those mums? Are our kids going to be saying this to us? I hope not.
The thing is though, they probably will, because every generation new things happen, don't they? You learn new things and
imagine
and you do things differently.
Anything to do with Ziggy that you realise, I wish I didn't do that, or maybe I didn't swaddle it, whatever. Once you see your own child doing that, you'll be like, don't do that. You know, if their whole upbringing, you were like, I'm not going to swaddle them because I read this, you're going to tell your kid that. Oh, don't give them an apple with the skin on.
I'd like to think that I'm just going to stay out of my kids' business and let them do what they want to do. Because that's just... I just don't want to hear from my mum what she thinks, unless I ask for the advice. If I ask for the advice, then it's fine. But I don't want you to make me feel bad for making a decision. There's some things that my mum will make me feel bad for making decisions on, and I'm just like...
Before you've even made a mistake, like, just the idea of it.
It's just the way you do things and the way I do things differently. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't think of an example right now.
Do you think that's a big part of mum shaming then? That's the problem, is that people... Yes, there's room for advice, and if people are trying to like kind of save you from doing something, but should everyone just wait until they're asked? Is that the kind of is that how it stopped becoming mum shaming, to giving advice? Like,
I don't think it's that. It's like imposing your opinion on something. It's one thing to say, oh, I could do it, you could do it like this, or like suggest something. It's another thing to be like, well, I used to do it like this, or why don't you do it like that, or you shouldn't do that. Like, it's the way you say it, it's the way you approach the conversation. And people say it with so much like, why are you doing that kind of thing, and I just think,
yeah, why do you
no, exactly. What's it got to do with you? I don't know. There's loads of scenarios when that happens.
100%. Like, even when we posted the mum shaming post, I was reading the comments of what people were writing, and it's just so, it must just be happening all the time. Like, it's such an important thing to talk about. I think with mum shaming, like, my opinion on it is just, it's always going to be the same thing. Mums, once you become a mum, you realise how big of a job it is, and you just have to, we have to kind of be mindful of our effects on other people's mental health, and like they can't, you've got to be more in charge of like how you execute something or how you say something, because once it's out there, it's going to affect that person. Even if you just say to a mum, oh, you know, oh, have you been doing that the whole time, they're going to be worrying about those type of things. And
I think as well, like, what bothers me is people that don't have kids and what they expect you to be like as a parent. Because like, for me, I feel like I didn't just ease into motherhood. Which is, I didn't expect, because I always wanted children, and I always thought I'd be a great mum. I'm not saying that I don't think I'm a good mum, but like, I didn't just, it wasn't easy for me. It's still not easy for me. Like, I struggle every day. Like, I feel like I have completely lost myself as not completely, but like, I'm a completely different person. I have no freedom to do anything. I don't know how to organise myself to make sure everything runs smoothly. Like, I don't do things on time. I don't...
So we have to talk about that one day, but isn't just getting things done on time, isn't that a whole new world now? Like, it doesn't happen.
Don't do things on time. Ziggy still does not sleep in the cot, he sleeps in my bed. I don't have any evenings. I don't, I barely cook. I don't do things that I used to do. I don't go out as much.
Can I say something though? I know that we post on the page a lot things like, we're not trying to portray ourselves that we do all these things on there. They're tips that we're also taking. So like, we've got like, it's just
I'm just saying, I can't speak for you, but I don't have it together at all.
But it's so important. I think routine helps. I don't have a routine.
100% helps me, 100%. But what I was going to say is, I feel like sometimes other people sort of look down their nose at me to be like, if I say I don't have time to do something because I've got Ziggy, people are like, well, why haven't you got time? Why can't you just do it with Ziggy? And I just think, well, I'm not lying. Just because you know another mum who's managed to juggle her time way better, and she can do her bloody uni work and her side job and look after the child at the same time, like, kudos to you, well done. I can't do that. Like, I'm not lying. I can't do that. I haven't worked it out yet. I'm not at that point. I don't feel like you should be looking at me in a type of way to be like, I don't believe you, or like,
Can I say something?
Like,
what you just said there, it makes you so sympathetic to it. If you just say to them, I haven't worked it out yet, that is such a more eye-opening approach.
But I don't feel like I should have to explain myself.
Because I'm just saying, it softens it a little. When you just said that, I was like, oh.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Because that is
Obviously,
so true.
If you haven't gone through that personally as a mum or as somebody who's not a mum, then you might not see it from that perspective, so you don't understand that.
I think I was guilty of it myself. I think before I had kids, I think I used to look at my friends who had kids and be a bit like, I've given you 4 weeks in advance, like, should we go out this weekend? And you're literally like, I don't know yet. Like, you know, and I used to be a bit like, but when you become a mum, you're like, oh my gosh, you're so much more sympathetic to mums.
You get it. Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure that eventually you do get into the flow of it. And I am getting better, but like, there shouldn't be the expectation. Do you know what I mean? No one expects men to do that.
With men are expected to be like almost the jokers of it. Like, oh, have you changed the bum yet? Ha ha ha. That's funny, but it's like, why aren't you laughing and asking me if I changed the bum yet?
Obviously I understand that is a different kind of bond that mums have with their babies, and obviously
that's fine.
Literally are feeding them from our bodies, and we've carried them, and I get that, but I do think that the expectation on mums is just sometimes is so overwhelming in itself. And
we don't touch on this too much, but not only the expectations, but then almost like you're almost just written off as a mum, like you're a mum. And I think that also, like, giving mums back their uniqueness and like being able to still have all these other channels going on. When you're a mum, you almost just get like, yeah, you're a mum now. And I think that needs to be kind of addressed, and just women need to remember that I can also be 1,000 other things, and you can't judge me if I want to go and do this just because I'm a mum.
I have to say as well, obviously we've been in lockdown, so it's a bit different, but since being a mum, I haven't done anything. I haven't gone out with friends. I haven't, all the things that I would used to do, I just don't do anymore.
I would like to say though it gets better, because Zig is 8 months. Yeah. I hadn't the first year. I didn't have a social life either, but now when Ray's turning 5, I do have just much more of a social life if I choose to, and I just feel like I have way more freedom now.
I think that's what it is. I think it's just people need to remember that some people might be like boom, straight into motherhood, adapted within 6 months. But then other people, it can take them a couple of years.
Yeah.
100%.
Till they're 18, some.
Do you know what else? Another thing that I don't like, talking about mum shaming and all of that, is this whole snapback culture, the body snapback culture. But this is what the issue is like, why is it that in our heads we have this thing where we have to go back to looking like what we looked like before we were pregnant?
I don't think that, because I wanted to keep my gains, and I didn't. But I think that, snapback for me is your uterus going back into position.
I get that. It is. But what I'm saying is, it's this whole ideal of this expectation that you should, even in yourself as a person, you might put it on yourself.
Want to go back to have a stomach?
You go back to have a stomach.
I don't think that anyone would be like, do you know what? I want to keep my uterus. Like, I want to keep my gut. I can't imagine anyone saying that. Like, forever. This is the shape I want to be now.
Yeah, but there shouldn't be so much pressure on
100%
on it, because at the end of the day, like.
But that's because
carrying a baby.
Yeah. No. I mean, I agree. I think that your body changes in multitude of ways. It's not just the stomach, is it? Everything changes.
Yeah.
And I think that is what kind of needs to be celebrated. It doesn't matter. You can get stretch marks. You can get extra skin. Anything. Weight gain, weight loss. Like, I personally suffer from weight loss.
Yeah.
And draining myself, just breastfeeding and then not eating enough. So, like, for me, it was like the other way. Like, I wanted to gain the weight back, and everyone was saying to me, oh, you look like, you've snapped back a lot. And to me, I knew I was so underweight, so it was like, every time they said that, I was like, are they just saying I'm skinny? Do you know what I mean? Like, so it was just a different struggle that I was having. And I know a lot of mums suffer with weight gain, but I know a lot of mums who suffer with not being able to gain their natural weight back afterwards, especially when they breastfeed. Like, I know a lot of people that I feel very underweight.
I just think that there shouldn't be any pressure on a mum that's just had a baby to put on weight, lose weight, anything to do with their body. There shouldn't be any pressure on that, because the amount of insecurities that you feel after giving birth anyway, because at the end of the day your whole body has morphed to carry this baby. Like,
now you're just being milked.
Everything. Even my feet got bigger.
What are you going to do? Next. Sorry if you are struggling. We'll leave you with that.
So anyway, we took it for ages now. So I think, anyway, we'll we'll pick this up again when we come back to our next podcast. Like, there's so many things that you can talk around these kind of issues. Just go on forever.
Literally.
Next time we're going to have a guest anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys.
See you next
Subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, please
subscribe to our YouTube. We're coming to you on Apple as well, so you can subscribe to that too. Bye.